My name is Chris Anatolio. I'm a developer advocate at Spheron Network. Today, we got a cool talk. We're talking about community-owned infrastructure. So basically, the idea here is we are going to actually deploy, operate, and manage infrastructure, for instance, nodes, indexers, basically anything you can run in a Docker container, basically any kind of application or database. We're going to talk about actually managing that using a DAO. So for instance, creating a DAO proposal, and then when that proposal gets executed, it'll actually automatically kick off a deployment pipeline. So one of the big complaints with DAOs is basically you're voting on a wall of text, right? So you have this discussion, you have a vote, but basically you are relying on the good faith efforts of essentially a third party, maybe the developer team, to actually execute those instructions in good faith and actually to the letter of what was agreed on. So just real quick about Spheron. Spheron is a decentralized computing platform. Basically, we try to make it butter smooth to deploy basically any type of infrastructure. Basically, you can deploy anything in a Docker container with like a super butter smooth developer experience. And it's robust, it's scalable, it's resilient, it's good to go. So basically, here is the high-level process. So imagine, just a basic, standard DAO, okay? And we're gating membership to that DAO with an NFT, right? So members, based on certain requirements, can create a proposal, right? So what's different about this proposal is you are actually defining infrastructure as code. So embedded inside the proposal, you actually have a JSON that's describing infrastructure. It could point at like a Docker image. It could be like this type of VM. With one CPU and 2 gigs of RAM. 4 gigs of memory. But basically, you're defining exactly what is going to be deployed, right? So you create the proposal, you discuss it, you vote on it, and then you execute it, right? So after you execute it, that smart contract actually emits a Solidity log event, right? And that event, you could find it by polling the EtherScan API, for instance. So let's say you deployed on Sepolia. You're just polling for like a specific smart contract the DAO is deployed to, and once you actually see that event, you could actually take some action. So basically, what we did is we just created like a basic Nest.js app running in a Docker container on Spheron. And basically, what it does is it's using the EtherScan API to like poll EtherScan, looking for these events. And when it finds an emitted event, it'll actually use the Spheron SDK to deploy that container that was defined in the proposal, right? And SDK is just a wrapper around an API, right? Because Spheron is really composable. You could use the UI, or you could just call the API to like deploy anything, basically. So digging a bit more into the architecture, so we have the smart contract. It's we deployed on Sepolia. I did this beforehand, just so we could get through the demo. And then we have a specific defined event that we emit, and then we're using the EtherScan API. So what you need for that is basically just an API key embedded in your application, and then we're using the Spheron SDK, which is basically just an NPM dependency we import into our application. And then we're deploying infrastructure. Basically, we're just deploying something called a BusyBox, which is just a set of Linux tools wrapped in a Docker container. So basically, just the process is for a DAO. You would discuss the specific configuration you'd want to deploy. You're like, we want to deploy, this specific graph indexer or this specific Redis database. And then you define that as a JSON, and then you would vote and you would execute that proposal. So let's dive into the demo real quick. So this is the Spheron interface. We actually have the application deployed on the back end that's polling for events and deploying to Spheron in response to that. So just to dig into that code a little bit, basically, it's just a really simple application. We have a cron expression, so basically saying every 5 seconds, execute this logic. We're hitting the EtherScan API endpoint on Sepolia, and we're doing some filtering on the events we get back. Not sure if you can see this, but basically you just get back this JSON that's listing every event emitted by your DAO contract based on the address you pass in. So basically, we just do some filtering, and then we call the Spheron SDK and actually pass in that JSON to get that specific infrastructure deployed. And now let's take a look at the contract. So it's a very standard DAO contract. Basically you have a proposal, you count votes, you check if it's executed, you're tracking voters, you're tracking your permissions, check that they have an NFT. So you have a modifier that checks that they own this NFT. And then the customizations we added in the string to track the actual infrastructure as code JSON of what we want to deploy. And then we also have this string called a deployment manifest CID. Basically what that is, it's an IPFS CID that points to a JSON that tells you what was deployed, so you can actually verify okay, so this was deployed at this instance ID at this time. If you need to update it at a later point, you have that ID. And it's also like a verification that this action was actually taken in response to the contract being executed. And then we also have proposal type. Basically, that just is an enum that differentiates between deploying new infrastructure and updating existing infrastructure. So let's actually go through the flow. We have this contract deployed to Sepolia. We have the polling service on the back end deployed. I already minted the NFT in my account. I'm sure you all know how to mint an NFT. So basically, I have this set of scripts running in Hardhat to create a deployment proposal, vote on it, and then execute it. So we're going to go through this flow right now using Hardhat scripts. So first, I'm going to create the deployment proposal. Yep, so yeah, it's just executing the transaction, waiting for confirmations. And then we can see the actual proposal is created here. It's going to take a little bit to get indexed. All right. Well, while that's getting indexed, let's go on to the next step, which is voting. So voting on the proposal, I might update the index to 2 for since that's the second proposal we've created, and then 0 for yay, for yes. So I'm actually going to vote yes on this proposal. Yes, so I'm just going to run another Hardhat script that's going to vote yes on that proposal. Yeah, and so we can see the proposal creation here. Um, let's see. All right, so we voted yes. So we have to wait a little bit for the deadline to elapse on that proposal, and then we're going to execute it. Um, and then the final step is after we execute that proposal, it's going to emit that event. Our backend service that we went through here previously, it's going to basically it's going to find that event. It's going to say like in the logs like, oh, I found this event, and then it's going to actually execute that creation. So if you see here, this is my Spheron dashboard. It's all my different projects. Each project has a bunch of different instances in it. So just different kinds of Docker containers, like database, node, indexer, whatever you need to run. You can put anything into a Docker container and run it on Spheron. So basically what's going to happen after we execute that proposal is we're going to see another instance created here. The SDK is going to create a project. It's going to spin up a new instance, pull down a Docker container, import all the environmental variables, do all that auto-magically for you, and then that it's going to come up, and now you have running infrastructure automatically provisioned by a DAO proposal without any intervention, without any manual intervention needed. So basically, you're taking your DAO proposal, and the actual act of executing it is what kicks off the deployment pipeline without needing to rely on a third party. So that further decentralizes the will of the DAO and the execution of proposals. So let's check back into our proposal. Hopefully I can execute it now. Okay, so I run this hard hat script, and I might try to execute that proposal. Oh, wait. Number 2. Oh, wait, sorry, I got the ID wrong on my vote. Okay. Sorry, I lost track of the ID here. Let me create this new proposal. Okay, so now I'm creating proposal number 3. Okay, and now let me make sure I'm voting on the right one. Okay, yeah, so I'm voting on proposal number 3 now. Oh wait, no, I was right. Okay. Oh no. So I tried to execute proposal number 1. I wanted to execute proposal number 2. So here we go. So, okay. So I'm running the execute script for Hardhat, and I am running the execute transaction on the second proposal, the proposal I created originally. Um, Here we go. So that's going to take a little bit to index. Okay, yep. So here we go. So this is the execute transaction that's successful on Sepolia. We can see in the logs we emitted the deploy event. So basically, if you want to dig into that real quick. Yeah, so we have this event defined here. Basically, you just have some metadata, and then you actually have that JSON infrastructure as code embedded within the event that you could pick up on the other end and be like, okay, I'm going to deploy this for you now. 5 minutes. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to. Oh, there we go. Okay, yeah. So cool. Let me refresh. Yeah, so if you saw that little toast on the upper right-hand side, that was actually this instance being deployed here. So let me see. So let me pull up the logs real quick. Yeah, so we can see here this transaction is actually the proposal execution transaction. Our backend service is polling Etherscan. It's looking at that deployed DAO contract. It's like, okay, I saw a new event. And then in response to that event being emitted, it's like, okay, let me grab the JSON, let me grab the infrastructure you defined as code, and let me just go ahead and deploy that for you. And then we can see here, we actually deployed this instance of infrastructure. Let's see. Yeah, it's going to take a little bit to start up. But yeah, I mean, yeah, that's basically it. That's the main flow. So basically, some applications, some use cases for this. Like for instance, imagine if you wanted to do like fractional node ownership. So let's say you have like a DAO, you have a group of people. And let's say they're interested in, creating something like a Shardium node, or creating some kind of new blockchain node that's coming up that's in testnet, and it's cost prohibitive for a single person to operate that node or that series of nodes, or maybe running the node is NFT gated. You'd be able to split the cost of running that node across several people. For instance, let's say you have 10 people that are all part of the DAO. They each mint an NFT. They each have an equal ownership of this DAO. And then the DAO could actually run that node, for instance, and they each have like a fractionalized ownership of this node. And let's say that node is incentivized. Right? Let's say there's an airdrop for all the node runners. At a later point, you could take those airdrop rewards and distribute them amongst the DAO members. That would be one idea of a use case for this, DAO triggered deployment pipeline, this community-owned infrastructure. So. Yeah, that's about it for me. I just want to thank everyone for hanging out, listening. Definitely try to check out Spheron if you need to run any kind of infrastructure, if you need to run any nodes, any indexers, any sequencers, whatever you need. If you want to run it on decentralized infrastructure that's robust, resilient, and elastic, go ahead and check out Spheron. If anyone wants to chat more about this or anything related to infrastructure deployments, I'm going to be over here right behind the Neptune stage. Just check me out. I have blue hair. I'm easy to find. And thank you everyone for listening to my talk. I appreciate it. And keep on building. Happy ETHDenver, everyone.